What's happening, hardscapers? This is episode 340 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And on today's episode, we have four-time returning guest, Marty Grunder. If you haven't listened to our previous episodes with Marty, highly suggest you check him out. Just search How to Hardscape Marty Grunder, and our episodes will show up Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. The first two were on the initial consultation and pre-qualifying clients. The next one, we talked about his hiring process and employees. And now today we're going to talk about building a sales team. Some great information in this episode on what Marty thinks about growing your sales team. And before we get into it, we want to say thank you to our sponsors. Cycle CPA. If you're looking for bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Let them know How to Hardscape sent you for money off their services there. Patio SEO has hopped on board as a sponsor, and they are a leading marketing and brand building company in the hardscape industry. And if you don't know, this company is run by James Reed. We've had him on the podcast a couple of times, some of our more popular episodes, and he owns hardscape businesses across the country. And now you can have access to the same in-house marketing team that he has access to at patioseo.com. So if you're looking for a killer website, targeted ads, or data-driven strategies to grow, check them out at patioseo.com. And if you're looking for a software to dive into this winter, the How to Hardscape headquarters software can help you budget, estimate, job cost, time track, schedule. We have courses for interlocking concrete pavement, segmental retaining wall installation, and you can also create your own courses for training, onboarding purposes for employees. You can create tests. Your employees can get certificates of completion. We have chat groups for projects or company-wide chat groups. You can customize your chat groups. And we have many more features in the works. If you want to learn more, go to hthheadquarters.com. That's How to Hardscape, hthheadquarters.com, or click the link in the show notes if you sign up before 2026 and complete your onboarding within 30 days. It's a very easy thing to do. We'll give you 6 months free of our software. This will end on January 1st, 2026. So once again, go to that link, schedule a demo with me, or send me a message at How to Hardscape on Instagram if you want to learn more. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Today we're joined by fourth time now returning guest, Marty Grunder. He is the founder and CEO of GLC, founder and president of Grow Group, where he helps green industry professionals grow their businesses, and host of the Grow Show. Marty, thank you so much for giving your time to myself and our audience here for a fourth time.
Oh, of course, Mike. Happy to be on. Thank you.
I want to get started with you today to ask you, what's your day-to-day like currently with all these titles, all these different businesses and ventures that you have going on? What's kind of like, I guess, a typical, though it's probably not typical, day-to-day in the life of Marty Grunder right now?
Yeah, well, I think you're probably making me out to be a little more involved than I am. Both of my jobs, Mike, are very similar. I am in charge of business development here at Grunder Landscaping. So what that means is I try to find two kinds of people that could do business with us and people that know people that could do business with us. And then I introduce those people to our company and our team to try to get some sales at them. So that's what I'm doing at Grunder. In addition to that, I'm also teaching sales and leadership at Grunder Landscaping, but that's what I do on a full-time basis at the Grow Group. I don't have a whole lot of administrative responsibilities at the landscaping company. I have none at the Grow Group. So I'm not trying to be all, gee shucks, he's so humble. It kind of sounds like I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm really not. I'm really teaching and mentoring and training at both companies, the same material, the same lessons. At the landscaping company, I do business development. At the Grow Group, I do business development. Now, those are decidedly different. Most of my business development efforts at the Grow Group are when I'm on the road speaking or doing a webinar or sending out notes or whatever. At the landscaping company, it could be a Chamber of Commerce meeting. It could mean taking somebody golfing. So I don't have it that bad. I mean, I do work a lot, but it's not like one company is a restaurant and the other one I'm doing research and trying to come up with a cure for a disease. I am doing the same thing, and quite frankly, at the landscaping company, this is the first time the last 3 years in my entire life as a landscaper that I was ever able to focus on what I do best, which is meeting people and trying to turn them into relationships. I was involved in project management and the sale and all this stuff that, when you're shifting gears, you're losing momentum. And especially when you don't have any gas, you're just you're going to coast to a stop in neutral. So um, it sounds a lot more complicated than what it really is.
And that kind of leads us perfectly into what I want to talk to you today about getting started with, a sales team or hiring your first salesperson, especially since business owners, they typically want to be front facing to clients. So that can be a typically hard role to start to hire for. Before I get into that, though, I want to ask you with, handing off all these different roles, you've had to evolve as a leader over time. What do you feel has really helped you in that process of becoming a better leader?
Oh man, that there's a lot of things, Mike. I think probably the most beneficial thing for me as my development as a leader is all the training and coaching that I've done in the Grow Group in the last 30 years. And working with the owners and leaders of landscaping companies and hearing their trials and tribulations and their struggles and telling, working through a problem and asking them what they did. And in many cases, what they tell me is like, oh gosh, I could see where I could do that. Man, mental note, don't try that one. Or mental note, like that was a really nice way to do a coaching session and try to get someone to see your point of view. I need to log that away. So just my experience. I'm kind of old now. My life is probably more than halfway over. I'm 57. I've been running a landscaping company for 41 years. I've been working at the Grow Group for 31 years. So, thousands and thousands of interactions with vendors and suppliers and coworkers and customers and just people, teachers, mentors, everybody. And so I've got a pretty good body of work now that's you're going to be hard pressed to argue with me on how to handle a lot of things. You can see me today. I don't think we're on a video, but I got some gray hair. Like I've earned those. Okay. So I think it's the experiences and, praise God for my wife. I've been married 32 years and she doesn't think I'm as awesome as a lot of my clients do. And it kind of brings me back to earth and I'm, working. I just found out from a client today that they don't want to work with us anymore and I can't argue with them. I understand why they were frustrated. So, I mean, stuff happens, and I think I'm pretty good at what I'm doing. But if I'm going to be great, I can't just brush this losing a client off this morning as like, oh, well, no big deal. I'll go find another client. No, it is a big deal. And it wasn't my account directly, but it's my company, Mike. And I can't blame somebody else. I got to look at myself in the mirror. I think part of the reason we're losing this account was we've got too much heaped on top of this one salesperson and he can't keep up. That's not his fault. He's trying to do the right thing. And, when I was your age, Mike, I might have been mad at that salesperson and said, well, how could you do this? Not taking into account the whole body of work. So long answer, but my experiences and hopefully staying humble and really wanting to get better. I know I'm good. I want to be great. And I'm only going to be great if I wake up each and every day saying I can do better.
Weird question for you, Marty, but I'm sure it won't be the last that I give you. In your experience talking with all these business owners in the Grow Group, especially from the very beginning, what has been more valuable? Has it been the people that are a good representation of a good leader or making good business decisions and so on that you're able to apply in different iterations in your company? Or was it the ones that were evidently doing something wrong where you were able to take those lessons and avoid them in your own landscaping business?
Mike, I'd say it's a little bit of each. You know, I When I was in business school in the late 80s and early 90s, the word empathy was not something that was talked about. today as a leader, if you don't have empathy, I just don't see how you're going to get ahead. Like if you can't put yourself in your client's shoes, your team's shoes, a vendor's shoes, your wife's shoes, your husband's shoes, whatever, I just don't see how you're going to make it. I really don't. So I can't say that it was either one. I think they both have been equally influential in my development. That, I'm in many ways I'm a reporter. Okay, I'm observing what's going on, and I'm filing away both the good and the bad, and I'm putting them in its proper perspective. Ooh, don't do that. Don't talk to somebody that way. Oh, you know what? I like how they let their team go out and run the meeting. I try running all my meetings, and I'm never developing anybody else by not letting them run a meeting. Why don't I kind of work with them and let them be the person talking to the whole team, and I'll stand off to the side. So it's being aware, and I think again to the point I made earlier, it's about drive, and it's about a desire to get better. I have four kids; they're adult children now, and those always motivated me. Like I really wanted to make sure I was setting a good example. Excuse me. I've long known that what you do speaks so loudly no one can hear what you say. I mean, I know that. You can say all of the great things you want. If your actions don't line up with that, you're toast. Nobody wants to listen to that. That's that's somebody that's a storyteller or not a great word, but a liar. I mean, I don't want to be one of those. So I think it's, look, every day we got a chance to go into work with a positive attitude if we can. And there's going to be bad stuff that happens, and you're going to have to like overcome it and lick your wounds and try to keep going because adversity's tough.
You mentioned the word empathy there. Is it possible to be showing too much empathy? And just to give you an example, say an employee that has stuck around for way too long, longer than they should have, and has really started to or continues to drag down the team, the company, and it could be that empathy that you're showing them that holds them around. Or would you just attribute that to something else that isn't too much empathy that you're showing them?
Yeah, I think you can have too much empathy. I'm working through an issue with one of my coaching clients in the Grow Group right now where he needs to tell a longtime employee that they can't work there anymore. And it was one of his first employees, and he feels bad and everything else. And I kept having to say, look, Kurt, you're not the one that did all this stuff. You're not the one that didn't come forward. You're not the one that didn't do your job. And you've got 35 people on your team and you're worrying about one. You need to worry about the other 34. So, yeah, I think you can have too much empathy. I think it's a fine line. I mean, empathy is, you got a guy that always has an excuse. My empathy, no, I don't have any. As a matter of fact, I'll share something with you. You know Strengths Finder?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so there's 35 strengths, I believe. Number 34 on my list is empathy. So apparently I don't naturally have a lot of empathy. I have empathy for trying to see someone else's perspective. But if every time something doesn't get delivered by you, you always have an excuse, don't have empathy for that. I'm talking more about somebody does a great job for you and they got one bad day and you write them off. That's bad. Okay? So yeah, you can have too much empathy for sure.
Thank you for going along with these questions here. I do appreciate that. Now, I do
No,
want to
they're
get
great
in.
questions, Mike. You're smart. You got it.
I do want to get into talking about building that sales team with you now. So, when it comes to your business evolution, when did you know that you were ready to hire that salesperson? And going back to what I said earlier, because that can be a really difficult thing to start to hire for, because most business owners, like I said, want to be in front of the client, want to be that one talking about and selling that client on what they can do for what that company can do for that client.
My late great aunt, follow along there, late great aunt, she passed away in 1988, so it was a long time ago. But she was a tremendous mentor to me when I was a teenager in my early 20s, on business. And she used to always say to me, Marty, was my Aunt Tad, Tad. She said, Marty, hindsight is good stuff. So, you know, for me working along in a business, learning from those mistakes and moving forward and seeing that stuff, I think it's just the maturation of a leader. Like you have the ability to look back. So now, in terms of a salesperson, 6 years ago, I didn't think we need any more salespeople. I just thought the existing salespeople we had needed to sell more. And I was convinced by everybody in my company, I was the only one that thought that way, that that wouldn't work. That, Marty, look, you can walk around here and just cough and sell $4 million worth of work. Not everybody can do that. They don't have your network. They don't have your knowledge. They don't have your experience. So, I think when you look at the areas of your business to leverage and grow it, I think you're going to have a better shot trying to find people to represent you in sales than you would in some of the administrative tasks on the finance end or so forth that the owner can do. Now, in a perfect world, if my son, he works for our company, works in our Cincinnati, Ohio office, say my son moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he was going to start a landscaping company. I would probably tell him hire an outside bookkeeper, hire a fractional CFO or somebody to help you with those kinds of things. Um, and I would probably tell him like sales and networking is where you're going to drive your business. So you've got to get people out there that can cover the deal. Operations, that's also a hard position to fill. I mean, they're all hard, but I think as far as the sales side, Mike, nothing happens till somebody sells something. So our growth the last 4 years, which has been pretty incredible, much of that is contributed to a really well-trained and high-powered sales force that we've developed the last 4 years with a couple of my team members here that have just been lights out developing them. If you're looking to grow your company, you got to have sales. So I think at a certain point, you got to try to get a salesperson, get them locked and loaded as best you can, and turn them loose and pay attention because the first one you hire is not going to be near as good as the seventh one you hire. You get better with that stuff as you go along. Um, but I'm a big advocate of hiring salespeople for sure.
And is that something that a company would look towards their current employees to see if somebody would be a good fit in that sales position,
I
or is
don't
that
know.
something?
That's dangerous because you know, it, in my coaching, what I've seen a lot of people do, they take the most tenured person in the company. They, irregardless of their skill, sales is like, well, you've been here a while, so we'll have you do sales. Well, did you do a personality assessment? What makes you think they'd be good at sales? I mean, somebody that's good at putting in a paver patio might be good at sales, but they might not be. And here's the problem with promoting from within on that. If you promote them to sales and they bomb, you may now have two holes. You got the hole in the sales position and you got the hole from the production side. So, um, I that's a tough one. I would probably rather than just turn somebody loose in sales, I would probably have them help you with sales. Maybe let a production person run a couple calls on Saturday and see how they do. I wouldn't tell them, now look, if you do good with this, we'll make you a salesperson. I would just say, listen, I'm buried. I don't really know what to do. I'm going to try to train you as best I can. And I was just wondering if maybe you'd be interested in running some sales calls on Saturdays. This isn't a permanent thing. This is just to help me get beyond it. And then you see what happens. You might run into somebody that's wildly talented. Our top salesperson here started out working on the crew, then ran the crew, then ran the department, and he was forever coming back with enhancement ideas. And our president, Seth Flum, and I both thought he could probably do sales, and we were right. He's our top salesperson. But we had a lot of test drives, okay? It wasn't like we just said, hey, we want you to go do sales, go figure it out. Um, I my mom's gone, but we used to use something around here and we call it the ding dong test. And it was my way of assessing a salesperson. And so what I said was, did they pass the ding dong test? And then they'd say, well, ding dong, what's that mean? You go to my mom's house, you ring the doorbell, ding dong, and my mom opens the door and talks to you for 5 or 10 minutes. Is my sweet mother going to be impressed or depressed? What's she going to be? And it was just sort of a way of kind of humorously framing, like, what's this person look like? How do they present themselves? Because at the end of the day, Mike, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And, we had a salesperson that we had to let go a few months ago. Nice guy, super talented, but didn't want to do it. Like, And you think, oh, I'm good at training. We'll put them in our system. I'm good at motivating. They'll excel. And you can take a flyer once in a while, but this guy just didn't want to do it. I don't know what the deal was. You can't make anyone do anything. So it's a process. And again, I'll go by what I said a couple minutes ago. Your seventh hire is going to be a lot better than your first, as long as you're present in the moment and learning as you go.
We want to take a break from today's episode to talk about marketing. Are you looking to take your hardscape business to the next level? Well, this is brought to you by Patio SEO, the leading marketing and brand building company in the hardscape industry. And if you don't know, this company is run by James Reed, who owns multiple hardscape businesses across the country. And here's the kicker. You're not just getting access to any team. You're getting access to the very team that helped grow James's own companies, plus hundreds of others in the industry. Whether you need a killer website, targeted ads, or data-driven strategies to grow, Patio SEO has got you covered. They've been in your shoes and know exactly what works. We've had James Reed on the podcast a couple of times, and they're some of our more popular episodes, talking about branding, talking about how he's built companies across the country. And with that, he needs lots of leads, which means he's had to perfect his branding and marketing. And now you can have access to that same in-house team that he has access to for his own hardscape company. So if you're ready to build your brand and see some serious growth, check them out at patioseo.com. That's patioseo.com, or follow James on Instagram at road to 100Ms. That's road to 100MS. Let's get your business the attention it deserves. Now back to the episode. We want to take a break from today's episode to thank our sponsor, Cycle CPA. It's crucial to review your financial statements on a monthly basis so you can diagnose areas for improving your business's financial health early before they become significant issues. Too many contractors wait until the end of the year to review their financials as they file taxes, when it's often too late to take action to change the outcome. Cycle CPA not only handles bookkeeping and taxes, but they also ensure that you're armed with financial data on a monthly basis to make key business decisions. They offer benchmarking, cash flow forecasting, and assistance in developing targets for financial metrics. With their team of accountants specialized in the hardscape and landscape industry, they currently work with hundreds of companies in this field. Visit cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. In your experience, do salespeople at GLC, is there a higher churn level in those first few months to 6 months, maybe to a year, than other sort of roles? Or is this something that is fairly consistent across the board in different divisions throughout the company?
Well, I mean, look, I'm just going to be blunt. I feel like I know a lot of interviewing tricks. I got some very smart people helping me interview. You do the best you can when you're interviewing someone. They're never going to look better, smell better, sound better, appear better. Your needs are never going to be greater. In some cases, you might be desperate. You may have someone else help you interview, and everybody says yes. And then the person gets in there, and after 3 weeks, their true colors show up, and you're like, what the heck? I mean, he knows we're not allowed to wear Vans shoes and put your hat on backwards. What's he coming in here like that for now? So you don't know. I mean, the salesperson that I just referenced, he could have done it, ton of potential, but he didn't want to do it. I don't know why. I can't make him follow up the way he's supposed to follow up. I can't make him put the right notes in the work order to make sure it's done right. I can't make him not throw the team under the bus. You do the best you can. So I don't have a regular track there you can follow. It's you do the best you can. You get better at interviewing, and you hire slow and you fire fast. Now, they do something wrong. No, you got to work with them. But did they do something wrong, and were they open to feedback, or did they make excuses? Was it something that was just plain laziness? Did they try to cover something up? I mean, there's some certain degree of sins here, okay? We have a new salesperson that's working with me on one of our big accounts. He sent an email that he meant well to our client, And it had a little bit of an insultative tone on there because he didn't understand the client the whole way. He didn't mean to do that. I told him not, for right now, run the emails through me. You didn't know that this is what this guy's background is, and he could misconstrue that as an insult. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I said, I know you are. You didn't know. It's okay. I'm just telling you so we can be careful of this in the future. If you do it another 133 times, you still won't catch up with me. Just relax, just learn from it. That's not a fireable offense. We find out you're late for an appointment and then you do it again 3 more times in the next week, we very well might fire you. I mean, you can't even do that part right. And how are we going to work with you? So there's various degrees of infractions that I think merit different kinds of punishment. And again, when you hire somebody new, it's incumbent upon you to stay engaged with them. Delegation does not mean abdication. And what, just to explain that, like, yeah, you can have them go work on sales, but you can't just leave them alone. Like, there has to be a system, there has to be a review. You got to ride along with them. You got to maybe talk to them every day. Hey, what went well today? What didn't go well? What's something you don't know how to do that you wish I'd train you how to do? How we doing? What was a win? I mean, you're not wandering in and out of their life. You're in their life. You're working with them. And you are demonstrating the behaviors that you want from that salesperson. Like, you're the gold standard for it.
Something like that, where an email was sent out, wrong tone, you have a meeting with them. Do you document that meeting at all, or that employee
Heck
sent that
yes.
out? Yeah, and you make sure that you have that and that it's not a mental note that you're going to forget.
No, anymore with those AI plugins, you can summarize that. The notes can get to you in 2 minutes. You can go through that and you can send a summary and you're documenting it. It shows you mean business. It's a really great cadence to get into.
What are your thoughts on salespeople also being the project manager, especially on project-based work?
When you're small, I don't know how you get around that. I
Okay.
think that's just kind of what happens. When you get to my size, and again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying when you get to my size, like I'm so cool. That's not what I'm saying. At my size, it makes more sense for us to have salespeople sell and project managers project manage. But we're at 18, we're surpassing 18 million in revenue. Still not a huge company, but we're bigger than, like when I was 4 million, yeah, my salespeople had to sell it, they had to manage it. And I was one of those salespeople. It was one of the reasons why we weren't growing. Like, I was stuck shifting gears through all those things. I think as soon as you can get into specialization, the better off you're going to be, where a salesperson can sell. But that takes time. Like, that might not be something you get to till you get to 8, 9, 10 million.
And then how do you avoid sort of like the telephone game where a salesperson would hand it off to a project manager and then the project manager has to, discuss things with a foreman where details aren't lost with what a client wants or what their vision is of the project?
We run the industry specific software Aspire. So when the job is won, all those notes and details are in there. And we have one person, Amanda, that wins all those jobs and is kind of watching for those details to be there. So that's a critical component of growth. I mean, at the end of the day, Mike, what's the best form of marketing?
Good work.
Yes, amen. You're so smart for saying that. I've heard other people, they like say postcards. No, if you don't do good work, you're not going to grow. So we got to not overcomplicate the business and make sure that the teams going out there know exactly what was sold in the highest level of detail possible. The best salespeople we have with details are the ones that came from the cruise. We've got a couple of them because they understand how frustrating it is to get out someplace and you got a drawing and nothing's adding up. There isn't any directions. The customer's talking to you about things and you're kind of, faking your way through, acting like you knew all that. And then you're going to your truck saying, hey, Mike, like, she says, keep the holly on the side of the house. The drawing says take them out. Oh my gosh, you're right. No, don't take them out. Did you take them out? No, we didn't take them out. Oh, thank God. I'm sorry. Like, okay, that's fine if that happens once in a while. But if you got a salesperson that's consistently doing that, creating a train wreck behind them, that's not a good salesperson because they're not going to get repeat business and you're not going to make the margin off the job that you need to make. So, look, I've had people think landscaping businesses are simple. You should ask our accounting firm that comes in here and works with us if they think this is a simple business. It's not. You got the weather, you got transactions that range anywhere from $80 for a lawn care app to 3 million on a commercial landscaping project. There's a ton of transactions, there's a ton of complexity. You've got blue collar people, white collar people, you've got just a never ending amount of things to deal with. I don't think a landscaping business is a simple business. And you got to understand that and have people that are flexible and are willing to work with one another. And I think, look, a salesperson, I don't think ever completely removes themselves from project management. But like we tell our salespeople, look, if you don't want to manage a project, then you make sure your notes and your drawings are done well. And that'll keep you out of managing it.
What do you think, along the same vein of salespeople being project managers, what about salespeople also being the designers?
Yeah, now that can work well. The only thing I will tell you is about the psychology and how your right brain and your left brain works. You know, to be the ideal green industry sales professional, you're Claude Monet, the famous artist, and Zig Ziglar, the famous motivational speaker and sales pro. And if you know anything about the brain, typically very creative people are not that great at details, selling, and moving forward. So they're a rarity. They're almost like a unicorn. I think it's fine. I think, again, if you get big enough, the optimal situation is somebody like myself that knows horticulture, is a pretty good landscape designer, and is really good at sales, that can work with a landscape architect or somebody that really enjoys cranking out drawings, is good at engineering and that kind of thing. And that's what we're trying to do here. Um, my friend and mentor, Clay Mattil, owned the Imes Corporation, the pet food company, an incredibly successful entrepreneur. And he told me one time when we were talking, he said, he was a billionaire. He said, Marty, everybody thinks I'm so smart, but it wasn't until 1986, my ninth year in business, that I realized we ought to be hiring people that had dogs and cats. And then he looked at me and he said, duh. And I just kind of chuckled. And his point was, like, if Imes hired people that, like, if they interviewed someone and said, do you have a dog or a cat? No, I don't have a dog and a cat. I hate cats and I hate dogs even more. Why would you ask me that? Well, they didn't get hired. So we got to have people that are either passionate about landscaping or they're passionate about serving customers. I've got some people that are probably more passionate about serving customers than they are landscaping, but there's got to be a passion for one of the two there present. You can't just be a guy that's like, yeah, man, whatever. We're just, we're going to be here and this is just a job. And, I look every Saturday in the paper for a new job and I go on Indeed. No, I mean, you got to be wanting to be a part of something bigger and you got to have a certain level of intensity to work here. And I would encourage everyone that's listening to your podcast, like, you got to try to find, look, the same guy that told me about dogs and cats, Clay Mattil, he told me, Marty, never, no one is ever going to care as much about your business as you do. No one will. And I remember when he said that, I was like, oh, no, I don't agree with that. Well, I agree with that completely. That's true. So you're not going to find that, but you can find people that want to do a good job. They want to be a part of something bigger. If you're good at casting the vision, you can get them excited about it. We've got a whole score of people that, given what I know about them now, if I had a chance to rehire them, the answer is heck yes. They're wonderful.
What are your thoughts around incentivizing salespeople? Whether, like, I've heard everything from just pay them a high salary to pay them something and give them a commission. What are your thoughts around this? And have you evolved in your own company what this looks like?
I'm a big proponent of a base salary plus a commission. I think that's I think that's very important. But that's me. I mean, I've got a colleague that believes that you shouldn't pay a commission, that you pay them a salary and then you manage them. I just don't. What I have experienced that works the best is the commission.
And how do you go about deciding what that commission structure looks like? And going off of
Man,
if it's
that's a real complicated answer, man. I don't even know if we have enough time today to answer that one because we took a year and a half to design our compensation program for our team and for our salespeople. We did numerous alliterations of it. We had our attorney involved. We had an HR consultant involved. We had an accountant involved. I had my partner in the Grow Group, Vince, involved. I had my president and Grunder, Seth, involved. You got to be really careful with those programs, Mike. That's not something you draw up on a weekend and announce on Monday, because here's the problem with it. It's got to be a win-win. If only the company wins and the team doesn't win, they get disengaged from that and they may just say the heck with it and quit. If it works for the team but it doesn't work for ownership, that's not good either. So you got to be really careful with them. That's almost a topic I feel like I'm demonstrating somewhat malpractice by getting too much into it, because it's just very complicated and you got to be really careful with it.
So for a smaller company that wants to start thinking about hiring a salesperson and thinking about commission and doesn't have the willingness to spend for what you talked about there, getting all these different people involved to create a commission, would you say it's better to start at a lower commission and work yourself up if need be, so that you don't get into trouble of giving a high commission, getting into those problems and having to work your way down? Or is it better to bite the bullet? You know what? We're going to set this up properly. We're going to get people involved, get a mentor, get people on the outside looking in to set this up from the start.
Vince, my partner, works on commission programs for companies. He's so busy. He doesn't, like, if five people call him as a result of this Hardscape podcast and want help with it, I don't even know if he's got time to work on them. But I think you need to get an expert that's done this before and understands all that. Ours are paid on gross margin so that the salesperson has a direct influence over how this thing can go, and they can't just go sell work and make it off the gross. So, yeah, Mike, I almost feel like a doctor. You're telling me what you think is wrong, and I'm telling you right now to go in for surgery. I'm sure this will fix it. And I feel like I have bugs crawling on me, like I'm doing something bad going too far with this topic, because I just think it could cause a lot of problems.
For sure. I have to ask you because these are things I'm curious about, but I appreciate the honest
No, no, it's
response
a
there.
great discussion. And it's a challenge. Like I have some really good answers for that in the programs that we help companies set up, but it's something we struggled with too. And again, my 41st year of business, our incentive program and our commission program is a heck of a lot better than it was than my 10th year in business.
And I've seen people online who, pay really well for their commissions and you see them doing well and then they go out of business. And then it's like, well, 10% commission that you were paying for your salesperson may have been
Right.
a contributing factor to that. What about for other incentives for other employees in the business, say a project manager, a foreman, people in the field? Are those tied? That also gets tricky, right? Because salesperson wants
Yeah.
to sell something for a certain dollar amount, and then it goes off to the people in the field to have to meet those hours on that project, and so on and so forth. How do you I'm sure there can be a clash there between the salesperson and a project manager or a foreman. Is that correct? And how do you go about smoothing those things over?
Well, again, we have a whole program that's involved in all that same thing. And we worked very hard on this whole thing. And then they ran scenarios through, look, Marty, in 2021, this is what we would have paid out. In 2022, this is what we would have paid out. Here's how it would have worked. Here's how it wouldn't have worked. Ours are based on a couple clear things that we monitor and Aspire. And Aspire is such a wonderful program. I know my dad is right. Garbage in, garbage out. There's no garbage getting put into this. The program's beautiful. And again, it just, you know, you're probably touching on the toughest thing of any business, is the incentives and how it works in terms of compensation and what do you reward, how do they get it, how does it make sense, how's it paid out. I mean, we did a ton of work on this, and we've got a dynamite program now, and we're in our fourth year of it, and we see some ways we want to kind of adjust it a little bit, but overall it's worked, and it worked because of the planning that we put into trying it. So, it's just what you're touching on is just a really tough thing that I think you should have a professional help you work through.
Awesome. And going off that sort of same vein, do salespeople have different crews? Or I'm sure if you had them stick with one crew that they sell for, there can be a clash between salespeople of saying, "Hey, I got the crew that's a B crew, and you've got the A crew over there, and that's why you're able to whip through all this work." How do you kind of go through that thought process?
Well, the law of averages over the course of a 9 month season or 10-month season, whatever, I know you're in Canada, so maybe you only have 8 months, but we've basically got a 10-month season. Over the course of the season, it levels out, and we don't assign crews to teams and to sales or assign crews to sales professionals. So that doesn't go on here. And the other thing I'm proud to say is like we work really hard at training to try to get everybody capable of doing things. Now, we have a couple crews that are just extraordinary that they do end up doing some of our best work because they're the ones that have taken the classes in masonry and learned how to do it. They're the ones that have learned how to cut pavers the right way. They're the ones that have learned how to grade and run the mini excavator and all that stuff. So there is some discrepancy there, but look, you sell a nice job, 50 grand, and it's got some intricate stuff. We're going to put the best guy on that job for you as well. So, I think it averages out. I think those are things that I don't know. And I know people can't see, but that's kind of like whining, like that's not the problem. Well, like go sell the work. We'll keep it fair. It'll average out over the course of the year. And I just don't see that being a big problem.
What about ongoing training for your salespeople? Do you have something set up in what you have at your company for them to just get ongoing training? Or if they were to come to you and be like, "Hey, this guy that I found, I'd really like to go to a live workshop with them." How do you go about being able to provide that ongoing training in those circumstances?
Well, we haven't. We don't have a whole lot of salespeople coming forward saying, "I saw this guy and I want to go see him." We got this guy Marty Grunder that's pretty good at sales training, and we have a whole series of sales training now on Granum with Greenius that you can go through. So a little plug for that. So between that and what Dawn, our director of sales, and myself and what we're actively involved in, we're equipping our team pretty well. Now, if we had a salesperson come forward and say, I want to go to this guy's thing, here's how much it is, I can't imagine us saying no to that. Like if we saw merit in it, we would probably say, yeah, go. We're all for that. Um, now if they said it's in the Bermuda, it's in Bermuda and it's $21,000, we'd be like, no. No, let's find something more reasonable than that to get started. We're not going to Bermuda for $21,000 for a sales symposium.
And what about setting budget or goals for your salespeople to hit? I assume that starts with a divisional budget, that you're setting a goal for growth, possibly, and then breaking that between different salespeople based on their experience or what they did last year and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
What's your thought process behind all that?
Well, that's all part of it. I mean, you go and build a budget for the next year based in part on what you did the year before. Where were the holes? One of the big things I think you should be tasking salespeople with is route density. Certainly on, even if you only do hardscaping, look, go and clean out a neighborhood. Like we saw Mike's crew working across the street. Surely, if they're good enough for the Joneses, they're good enough for me. Yeah, let's hit those neighborhoods. So we want more jobs in that neighborhood. We know we people know us over there. It's close to the shop. The homes are kind of the same. They're all built by the same builder. We're not dealing with janky siding off the back when we have to transition. They do smart things with where they put the gas meter and where they put the septic system or whatever it is. I mean, trying to get yourself faster in a slot where you can, get going and get some momentum.
Last question for you, Marty. Maybe one more, sorry, but you mentioned sales director. What are the roles and responsibilities, very briefly there, of a sales director?
Well, it's also, we call it a director. It could be a sales manager. And I'll tell you, that's probably the biggest thing I see people screw up is they make their top salesperson their sales manager. And in premise, I get why you would do that, Mike, but just because somebody was great at managing themselves doesn't mean they'd be good at managing anybody else. I'm an awesome salesperson. I teach sales. I know what I'm doing. I'm a miserable sales manager. That's why we have Dawn. I don't have patience. I go very fast. When I can slap myself into teaching mode, yeah, I have a lot of patience, but my mindset is, and this is a failure on my part, a weakness. Like, look, I just told you how to do it. Go do it. What don't you understand about hustling? Like, follow the steps. Well, this is like my superpower, Mike. This is what I do better than 99.9% of all people on the face of planet Earth is sell landscaping. So that you're really holding them up to a standard that's unfair. So, a director of sales, a sales manager has to be somebody that's patient. They got to be somebody that's empathetic. They got to be somebody that holds people accountable. They got to be good at analyzing data. They've got to stay down here. They got to be a coach. They got to be, sometimes people need a foot in their rear end and sometimes people need a hug. Like they're a director of sales, a sales manager. That's a that's a pretty hard person to find. That's about as hard to find as a director of ops for a landscaping company, somebody that's going to run your ops. But if you get the right one, you can do some serious damage. I know of a couple companies that have gone to other industries and brought sales directors from those industries and plugged them in, and it's been a really good move for them.
In your time in business with sales teams and having new people come in as salespeople, what's a common thing that you or your sales director or somebody has to talk to the salespeople about in terms of getting better, becoming a salesperson in the business? Is there any like common theme that kind of comes up in those first few months of them actually selling?
I think the biggest thing is you got to listen to your customers. I mean, customers do business with you because they know, like, and trust you, and that's a process. People are turned off by what I call commission breath. They know if you're not listening. They know if you're disinterested, disengaged, and not present. So I think those are the things. Like, you got a new salesperson. They're eager to please the company. They know they please the company by making a sale. There's stress. We have a wonderful young lady that started with us a couple months ago. She had some serious high power sales experience. She worked in a floral shop. I'm going to mark down right now that she is going to be a superstar because I just see how she conducts herself, how she listens. She's professionally pushy, and professionally pushy in the world according to Marty, wham. That's a technique here, wham. Um, that's what I want. I want somebody that's gonna stay on mic and try to get them to buy and talk to them, but not be obnoxious. Like, I like professionally pushy salespeople. I don't like unprofessionally pushy salespeople that have commission breath, that don't ask questions, that just say, "Okay, so if I get the price there, will you sign today then?" No, I don't know that I will sign today. Why do you want me to sign today? What's that all about? What are you hiding? So, it's an art and it takes time. But I think at the end of the day, and it sounds so simple, Mike, but people do business with people they know, like, and trust. I've said that 5 or 6 times now. That's a process. And you get to that place by being nice. You get to that place by listening to people. You get to that place by saying, listen, as much as I'd love to tear out this whole landscape and redo it for you, I don't I don't think that's what's going to help you sell this house. I think if you don't fix the drainage in the backyard and somebody goes to look at this house and they walk out there and they're ankle deep in mud, I think that's a bigger problem. Why don't you fix the drainage in the backyard and we'll just clean up the front? And that's going to be about half instead of redoing the front, and save the money and give it to me on your new house. You know how many times I've done that and people look at me like, okay, well, thank you. My buddy Todd called me last night from the computer store. He's got a very successful company that teaches young people how to manage their money. And he thought his laptop was dying. So he goes to this Micro Age or something computer place. And the guy looks at the computer. He's like, yeah, your charger's broken, but the rest of the computer's fine. If you plug this thing on the other side, you can charge it that way too. So he bought a $9 charger and walked out of there. And he's like, I was just so impressed with how honest the guy was. He could have sold me a new computer. He probably could have taken this one in as a trade-in, and he probably could have sold it for a couple $100 or whatever. And I'm going there to buy all my computers. And we were just kind of having he was so impressed. He called me at 8:30 at night to tell me how he was treated. And that's what a good salesperson does. They play the long game, not the short game.
Marty, really appreciate your time here. One last thing, Grow event in Atlanta. Can you talk to us about what's going on there?
It's in Dallas, actually. We were in Atlanta about 10 years ago. Dallas, Texas, direct flight on American Airlines, Mike, just about any place. I mean, if you like the session today with me and Mike, you'll love. We've got 48 breakout sessions. We're going to tour one of the top landscaping companies in the country, Complete Land Sculpture, an incredible machine. We've got oodles of networking going on. It's a life-changing event. It's about the second largest educational event in the green industry now. We're very excited about it. We'd love to have you. Go to growgroupinc.com. Look me up on LinkedIn, Instagram. I'd love to connect with you. If something resonated with you today on Mike's podcast, I'd love to know that because it might tell me I need to teach more of it.
Marty, thank you so much for your time. Also, the Grow Show, I highly recommend you check that out on your favorite podcast player. I've gotten a lot from it. So, Marty, I do want to say thank you for being here for a fourth time and giving me and us your time as well as everything that you do for the industry. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Mike. I enjoy you a lot. Good luck to you.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. If you got something from this episode, if you found it valuable, you can help us by sharing this podcast with somebody that you think would find this helpful, or any of the episodes that we have done. Sharing it in Facebook groups, hardscape groups, or anybody that you could share it with. That really does help us out here, and it helps us get more and more great guests on the show for future episodes. But I do want to say thank you for listening to the How to Hardscape podcast. And before we leave you, we want to say thank you to our sponsors. Cycle CPA. If you're looking for bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Let them know How to Hardscape sent you for money off their services there. PatioSEO.com. And now you know Patio SEO can take your hardscape business to the next level. James Reed and his expert team have built a reputation on success, not just for their own companies, but for hundreds of others just like yours. So don't wait. Visit PatioSEO.com to learn more and get started. But also be sure to follow James's journey on Instagram at Road to 100Ms. That's Road to 100Ms for behind the scenes tips and insights. And I do recommend checking that out and following along to that. Ready to build your brand? Patio SEO is here to help you every step of the way. And we look forward to meeting you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.